if you're wired like we are, balance is actually boring. So I speak to entrepreneurs every now and again, and I'm like, you just need a boring year. And what a boring year normally means is making loads of money. I can remember times when I hated it.
Right.
I reckon there's a 7 to 10 year window of entrepreneurship where you can go in a linear sense growth-wise. It was all the bits of business I didn't want to do. I thought progress was pain, and I was always in pain, anxiety, stress. But now I'm actually at the other end, and my whole life is about not having stress. I enjoy everything. I look forward to coming to the studio and doing this with you. I look forward to having a meeting with the team on whatever, second week of the month. My work ethic was out of control. It was making me ill. I didn't want to be working as hard as I was because I'd been doing it for, it would have been 20 years then. And I was just like, why am I addicted to work? Why do I have to be at my desk at 5 a.m? Why do I have to work so hard? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the next round of the 6 Rounds podcast on The Blueprint. This time we're talking to a very special guest of mine. This is Tej Gill. He's a long-standing board member. He's a very good friend of mine. He's got a wide range of expertise in a very wide range of things, from finance to tax to M&A and business, also into property. We're going to cover all sorts of topics on this 6 Rounds podcast. I'm very excited to do so. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, this is Tej Gill. You can go first.
All right, Dan, I'll straight in.
In, let's go.
All right, I'm gonna go heavy. So obviously I've known you for a while now, and you've spent a lot of years gathering skills to make you good at what you need to do in your life, and going above and beyond in terms of stretching yourself. So what life skills that you should be good at are you still embarrassingly bad at? Fantastic question.
Without a doubt, balance. Like, I don't know whether balance is this romantic thing that we're all supposed to achieve, or if it's just we're just not wired for it.
Yeah.
But at the minute, you asked me when you came in, how am I? And I just said to everyone this week, I'm absolutely amazing. Business is good, family's good, relationships good, life's good, and it's fantastic. Then I got in the car with Rob, and my driver, and he says, he hasn't got a day off now till like February. I said, you need to get yourself a break. And he's like doing 8 days on the bounce. And he says, yeah, but I said, you need a break. And he says, yeah, but I love it. I said, well, do you know what? That's the problem I've fallen into now. I love it. So I'm all guns blazing, having a great time. But then I burn myself out by accident because I do actually love it. Steph was like, oh, are you burning out? I said, I don't think so. I'm having a great time. She was like, that's probably the problem. So we're off to Dubai in a week to get a break. What would you say yours are?
Well, when you said balance, I thought you meant physical balance. That was something you were meant to master.
If I've had a few beers, that's a problem.
You just fall over. I guess on a serious note, I think I would say, balance means a lot of things to different people. I was actually journaling on the way up here on the train, and I was doing the Wheel of Life, and like some bits are up, some bits are down, but the wheel is a great analogy, right? Because it turns, and like each one's a spoke, and sometimes something is going to be on top and something's going to be at the bottom. So by default, something's going to be out of balance and something else is going to be in focus. So I think that's probably something that do you think anybody's ever going to master that?
Well, I think it depends what profile you are as well and what you want from life, because there is the whole thing which you just said there is the same with business, right? It's like a Rubik's Cube. You move a few things around, crack one side, turn it over, and you screwed up the other. So it could be whatever, health, training, business, money, wealth, gearing, anything. But also I think if you're wired like we are, balance is actually boring. So I speak to entrepreneurs every now and again, and I'm like, you just need a boring year. And what a boring year normally means is making loads of money. It means don't do anything new, don't tinker with anything, lock in the top line, minimise the overheads, maximise the bottom line, and just let it run. Stop messing around with it. That's what I was sitting in a board meeting last week we were talking about.
Yeah.
A boring year of actually making money. And they were like, it's really lucrative, but it's not actually any fun. Would you like that or not?
So my first year was my year was the eye of the storm, because I thought it would be nice and relaxed while everything else had gone on around me. It did not take me long to go running into the storm again, because I think, certain people are wired a certain way. And I think anybody that's kind of within the circle that we know, they're all going to be wired for a little bit of mayhem. Even the profiles that are more relaxed and detail oriented and a bit more restrained, even they're going to love a bit of storm now and again as well, because it's what we kind of live for, is what we thrive on.
Yeah, it's the game we play, right? And it's sort of feast and famine, and it's in and out, and it's like it's been in the battlefield. Like when you came in, you said, "How you doing?" I said, "Oh, amazing. I'm nearly a free man again. I'm nearly off this like £6 million bridge." But then literally this afternoon, as I got the last bit of Emma sent me the last bit of paperwork, which means the last couple are just coming down the road now. And what did I thought immediately? I thought, right, I'm ready to get back in the ring again. And it's just like the game we play, right? It's sort of the anticipation, the adrenaline. So I'd say that's my skill I haven't cracked, but I'm not hugely disappointed with it. The biggest things I have cracked have been in the last 18 months to 2 years, which means now I'm really having my cake and eating it. I'm loving business. I'm loving doing deals. I'm loving everything again.
Yeah.
Post baby, the relationship's getting back where it needs to be. Everything's coming back to a great spot. And there's lots of that I'll never want to change again. Or at least I'll probably get it wrong again, but in a different way. But there's no way I'd sacrifice like I have in the past.
Yeah, I think that makes total sense, that it comes and goes. It ebbs and flows, and your life moves. Sometimes you've got more energy to put into certain things like rebuilding the business, right? Because you had a quiet year last year, consciously, and then this year you kind of just stepped on it and went for it again.
And I think that's a good acknowledgement point, because people think, are we looking for are we all on this journey trying to find this amazing destination? Well, we're not. Obviously, it's the journey, not the destination, that whole cliche.
Yeah. But
if the life is the book, you want every chapter to be a page turner, and that's what Property Entrepreneur is about. It's about every year, what journey do you want this year? Is it big? Is it more time? Is it more money? Is it more work? Is it less work? Is it go big? Is it go home? Whatever.
Yeah. I mean, there will always be a part of you that does still want that easier life, even when you are pushing and striving, because you can't have the yin without the yang, right? You got to have something to calm you as well, and whether that's meditation, whether it's the gym, whatever it is, there's something that offsets all that energy, because otherwise you just burn out and hit a wall way too quickly if you're just all guns blazing all day long. And you've been there.
And we might come to it in one of my rounds, but it depends who you are and what you want to get, because there's loads of models and like mindsets that I could share on it. But I'm at a point now where I'm a very different entrepreneur and investor and business person than I was 10 years ago. But it's out of choice. When I see people like yourself or some of the other board members who want to shoot for the stars and take over the world, initially I was trying to talk them out of it. Like, look, you can skip the gear and you can go straight here. But the reality is, why would you bother? Why would you skip a great chapter if you want to get it out of your system? I did the board mentoring calls before we came here, and one person wanted to basically be the CEO and take it up to a series, quadruple in size. And rather than say, no, you don't want to do that, that's going to be painful, it's going to be hard, I was like, what do you actually want to do it for fun or for money? And they were like, both. I was like, in that case, I mean, it might not be fun at times, but I can understand the logic.
Yeah, I think that is interesting, the fun or for money, because there's a point where the money kind of becomes irrelevant, because everybody there is comfortable. Nobody's stretching themselves financially and to do anything they want to do. And then when it's about fun, does it feel like it's the same amount of effort and energy you're putting in, or is it just, if you're doing it for fun to see what you're capable of, it becomes a game? And anytime you play a game and you can see yourself winning at that game, it kind of just carries that momentum forward, and you don't feel the fatigue so much.
Yeah, I think so. I think ultimately all it all ever comes down to is, are you really doing what you want to do, and are you happy? And that some of that might be being your best self and living out your potential. Sometimes it might just be being really content where you are, and sometimes that means doing loads. Sometimes it means doing nothing. But the tipping point is when you have to do it for money, you will sacrifice time, enjoyment, pleasure, because you need to get to a point where you're wealthy enough to never have to do it again. When you get to that point when you've got that wealth and you don't do it and you don't have to do it, then you only really want to do it if you choose to do it. I'm addicted to doing deals. I love doing deals, but I do them on my phone. I do them a couple of hours a day. I do whatever I want whenever I want.
So now you love doing it. Can you remember when you were doing it because you had to do it to make the money? And how did you feel about it? You hated it?
No, I can remember times when I hated it.
Right.
I reckon there's a 7 to 10 year window of entrepreneurship where you can go in a linear sense growth wise until you get to a point where, because there's the entrepreneurial fun, sexy growth, but then you get to the hell bit where you've got, for me, I had 8 offices. This is where you're going. 8 offices, 40 team members.
Yeah.
And it was just really boring. It was all the bits of business I didn't want to do. There was no creativity. There was no exciting bits. It was just a slog. It was HR. It was legal. It was all of that, which for me is not what I want to do. Boom. That was a great first round. Nicely done. Let's throw it back to you with... Yeah, let's carry on that vibe. So one of mine is levels to the game. So entrepreneurship, levels to the game. Where are you? Where have you been? Where do you want to go?
God, that's a big one. Where am I and where do I want to go? So where I want to go is, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I'm at a point where I want to work out what I'm capable of doing, where I'm capable of getting to, because I had a call, and not that I'm leaving property entrepreneur, but I had a call with somebody from one of Tony Robbins' things, and they said, like, why did you get in touch? I was like, 'cause I don't know. I just want to see what there is out there and what is possible, because I think I lived a lot of my career on autopilot, a lot of my life on autopilot, just kind of not pushing, just things would happen, right? And I guess growing up, everyone said, oh, you'll be fine, you're really smart and all this stuff. And I think I probably just let it happen, let it coast. And I only feel like I got in control of it all about 4 years ago, maybe. And now I'm seeing what levels there are, what gears there are, and I don't know what level I want to get to, or when the 7 to 10 year window closes shut and I'm like, I've had enough now, I want to stop at this point. So
If you were to describe that level now, where do you think you are? Like, as in that, maybe not on the spectrum of like, I'm at a 3 going to a 4 out of 10, more like, how would you describe the level of the game that you play? And the thing with this as well is there's no ego. It's not like the next level is better and a 10 is better than an 8. The whole point of reading a book is to get through every chapter and explore it, enjoy it,
and love each part, each chapter that you
love it till you hate it and move on.
Yeah, and I think, and that's why at the moment I don't know where I want to get to, because actually I'm loving the chapter that I'm in. I love the chapter I was in last year and the year.
What do you like about it? What's it like?
It's the journey again. Is that just discovering new things, new perspectives, new ways of managing a team, and new ways of developing people, new ways of getting your brand out there, new ways of attracting clients, new ways of enjoying time with your kids, because they're obviously getting older every year as well, right? So you can do more things with them. It's just like from each direction that you look in, there's a lot of discovery, a lot of exploration still to do. And when you got that in front of you, you can't help but just enjoy the level that you're in.
To calibrate it for people listening, if you think about stress levels, like where on 0 to 10, where's your stress levels at the moment?
Funnily enough, actually, the journal I've got every morning, it has a little sort of dial in it, and you've got to shade in what stress level you're at.
Great.
And I basically shading in a 2 or a 3 each day.
Okay, cool.
There was a 7 or 8 when a couple of management accounts came out back in July or something like that. But otherwise, it's a 2.
What about workload between low and high?
It's probably on the higher end, and I think that's probably because I'm still in that 7 to 10 year window where I'm happy, where I don't mind doing it. I do get precious about it sometimes. But what do you? Where are you? What level are you at? And what level? How many of those 7 to 10 years are still left for you?
Mine are gone.
Yours are
shot,
gone.
burnt to a crisp. Like I overstayed my welcome. I think I did that journey. I started into. It depends where you start counting it, but let's say just PPN. So when I started my first business at 14, I'm now 39. That's 25 years. I rode the wave all the way through that. So there was no breathers, no years off, no traveling. It was grafting, 3 jobs, 5 businesses all the way through. But then there was like benchmarks. PPN was probably 2011. So what's that, nearly 15 years. And I would say the first 5 or 6 years was absolutely amazing. Band of brothers. It was my spare bedroom, then 2 spare bedrooms, then the living room, then the whole house was the office.
Yeah.
That was all amazing and fun. Then we went from like 2 offices to 8 offices. And then that went into this big like dream team, head office, buying businesses, all of that. And then it all got really serious. You're in big 7-figure loans, acquisitions, deals,
Covenants.
What's that?
Covenants and stuff.
Yeah, insurance policies, private investigators, HR disputes, all the stuff that comes with it, where actually it just becomes horrendous.
Yeah.
And I remember you used to get out of bed for a period of time, probably a couple of years on and off, and just be like, all I've got to do is get through today, and then it will be fine. And obviously it was. I got to the end, I sold, I had my exit.
Yeah.
And now I'm at the other end. And my big thing now is all the stuff I teach on the board is really, that's the level I'm playing at now. Yeah. Chairman level, make anywhere from like 2 to 5 million a year with a small team of like literally just managing directors report to me and EA. Very non-executive. I don't have any day-to-day anything. Nothing's urgent.
Yeah.
Loads of time on my own. Doing bigger deals. which that's the next thing for me really is doing those bigger deals. And also I'm looking now like doing millions and even tens of millions a year in deals. That's within my wheelhouse at the moment. But I'm now looking at, can I actually create a model where I could do hundreds of millions or even billions? And this is only for the levels of the game within that same model. And next week in the boardroom, I'm going to be sharing with you that exit strategy blueprint I did last year about using a small team with a certain business model, how you can get all the big returns without the big headaches. And I've actually found my first like £1 billion model, which is crazy. I've not even shared it with anyone yet. So I'll share it with you in the boardroom next week, maybe.
Well, that blueprint you did share, I remember I told you last year I went back and rewatched the whole thing and went through it bit by bit. And like the clarity that gave in terms of where I want to get to, what we're doing for the next few years was just immense. And I can see now what I wrote down 12 months ago, literally it's happening now. Like even down to the fact I wrote down, we're going to need another admin assistant, probably somebody for finance. And right now, Jasmine's recruiting for a finance person to just run. It's just like when you sit down and you actually think about it, you can see it in front of you. And I think that's probably you going back to the level that I'm at. I'm definitely still in that early window, that 7 to 10 years, because I only started this little thing off a few years back. And I think the level where I am is still, it's that kind of thing is enjoyable, sitting down, rewatching things, reworking things. And I think while it still feels like a game as well, it still feels like play. I think I gave an analogy once that like, I'm never going to win an Olympic medal, right? I'm never going to win a Champions League medal. That's not what I'm good at. What I'm good at is a little thing I'm all right at is business. And so that's my sport, that's my game. And if I want to be the best I can be at it, then that's going to take a bit of work to get there. So there's definitely still levels to go. How far, how high those levels go, I've not put a cap on it of where I want to get to at this point yet.
And to give you credit, I would say you're great at it. I think I was actually surprised that you didn't win Board Member of the Year last year. Maybe not when we got towards the end of the year because there was some big competition in there, etc., etc. But if you look at the way you're playing the game at the minute and those things you said about learning stuff, growth, enjoyment, that's the same at every level of the game, in my experience. So all we want is growth, enjoyment, excitement, and we play at that level until we've mastered it, right? You know, if you want to be a black belt, you don't train to become a black belt. It's a white belt, yellow belt, brown, 2 purple stripes, or whatever it was that I sort of half-assed got to.
I have no idea.
I did like karate back in the day, and you got to go through the levels. And I would say you're really good at that. Like, and you're not a tempo. Normally that would be a tempo approach. Read everything, research it, consider it, ask the questions. And in the whole time I've known you, which is, it's years, not months now, you've consistently taken that approach. And I think the results you're getting are admirable, like based on that.
Thank you. I think that's part of the balance as well. Like Jasmine is the complete opposite end of the spectrum.
I got that vibe when I called the other day.
Yeah, exactly. And that's probably the other thing to pull out is like the team you need around you to move through the levels like that. I'm fortunate that we happen to be husband and wife as well as business partners, but you need to really get through the levels. Or maybe that's where it starts becoming a grind if you don't have that right person and those right people around you in your team as well. Have you found that thinking back when you were moving through those levels?
I think there's two parts to go. Yes, the band of brothers was my brother, all of my friends. There's not one of my friends or family that I can think of that haven't actually worked for one of the businesses at one point. Because it's just, initially it was like what you could afford and the people you knew. But then also it has this magnetic, exciting, like a lot of people look back, don't talk about the money that we made. They talk about the parties we had, the fun we had, the challenges and horrendous stories we've got. That's what makes a good sort of journey. I think what happens is there's the money bit. Like the more you learn, you'll go through those gears. And actually, as you go through those gears and you're making more money, in order to make even more money, you've got to go to the next level. And to get to the next level, the sad thing to say is you will get to a point consistently where you exceed the ability of your existing team. Now, for you as an entrepreneur, the definition of the destination is only going to be capped by how much you can learn, right? And also, when you read the book that I mentioned earlier, it talks about how long you can stay in the game. Because a lot of people are fly-by-nights and flash in the pans. If you can stay in the game for decades, organically, you'll just get better and better and wiser, and you'll be able to go. But you will get to a point where even if you'd love to take your team with you and they say they want to come, they don't have the ability, the expertise, the drive, the education. And then you start working with the next level, which might be the dream team or the professionals.
Yeah.
And when you do, one, you can't believe you never did it before, but you wouldn't have wanted to do it before because you're working in your spare bedroom, and these guys wouldn't have worked 24 hours a day.
Yeah, and it's that thing, isn't it? You are where you are. Everyone kind of feels like they should be at a different point in their life, but you are where you are in your life because of the sum of the choices you've made to that point, and you wouldn't have known, or nobody would have known about the next level they've just got to had they not gone through the level they'd been through. So, although there would have been things in my life I didn't particularly enjoy those moments, those times, they've all added up to get me to where I am here now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing that I learned as well, and I'm only so I, for probably a decade, hated running Property Entrepreneur. I hated speaking. I hated the stress. I hated the events.
I hate Adam.
I hated Adam. No, I love Adam. Always love Adam. I just really didn't enjoy it, and it wasn't necessarily anything to do with Property Entrepreneur. I just didn't really enjoy much. I thought progress was pain, and I was always in pain, anxiety, stress. But now I'm actually at the other end, and my whole life is about not having stress. I enjoy everything. I look forward to coming to the studio and doing this with you. I look forward to having a meeting with the team on a second week of the month.
Do you think the anxiety and the stress is why you put off starting a family till last year?
No, I think that was I wanted to get the job done. So I wanted to make my money, get financially independent, and then start a family. That was always my thing. And then the strange thing, and again, it'll be in that book that I recommend to you next week in the boardroom, is I never thought I was financially. I said to someone in passing once, they said, "Why haven't you started a family yet?" When some of my friends have got teenage kids. And I said, "I don't think I'm financially in a position to." And they literally started laughing out loud. To me, I genuinely meant I didn't think I was not making. In fact, I probably was. I was probably, if you include equity, I was probably making millions of pounds a year.
Yeah.
So in the seven figures. And I still financially didn't feel like I was in a responsible enough position to start a family. And the reason was I was so panicked about getting to where I wanted to get to. Now I'm there, I can actually enjoy it and do it. But that anxiety that was fake, I forced myself to believe, and it wasn't actually true, but it got me to where I wanted to now, sort of thing.
So you used it as a tool to get yourself to that end point quicker, so you could go on to the thing. Do you feel like having the family was the thing you always actually really wanted?
No, I was unsure until 6 months before Harper was conceived that I actually wanted to have kids.
Really?
I genuinely didn't think I wanted to have children for various reasons. And now I have. The only thing I think about is age. But then I think Sav's 10 years younger than me, so there's some arbitrage there. And obviously, I'm big now about health and fitness and trying to buy back those lost years. So all things considered, I'd rather be a wealthy 40-year-old starting a family than a broke, exhausted, burnt out 50-year-old with, 30-year-old kids. So that's my view. And if I could have my cake and eat, I would have done, but I couldn't, so.
Love it. Right. Is it me?
It's you. That was a great round.
That was. Well, actually, this kind of leads nicely into what my next one is, because one thing that gets talked about a lot in loads of circles, not just on Property Entrepreneur, is about intergenerational wealth and passing it on and planning for it and everything else. But there's also then like intergenerational values and mindset to pass on. And now you are a dad. Harper's 18 months, right? Thereabouts?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are the values you would like her to have at her core when you're no longer here?
Well, somebody put in the board group, I think, maybe it was you, about what's the point of our job as parents. And it's like to get our kids ready for when we're not here.
That was me.
I just thought that was so profound. It's such a profound thing to say. And I thought, wow, and it actually made me a bit emotional. I just thought, that's such a strange thing to say, but it makes complete sense. Yeah. And I think there is that. Sav and I talk a lot about what we want for Harper as an individual. Do we want it to be like huge, or not success, because success means whatever you want it to mean.
Yeah.
Do we want it to be a big gold medal, whatever? And all we want it to be is self-sufficient. So like whether that means she wants to earn 20 grand a year or she wants to earn 200 grand a month, whatever she wants to do really. But my £1 billion idea that I had the other day after taking like 2 melatonin gummies because I hadn't slept for about 3 weeks.
It was just melatonin, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, yeah. And I had this deepest dream of me doing something in the education space, starting off with creating tools for Harper. And I just woke up and thought, one, I just feel so emotionally connected to it, which I haven't felt to a business idea for years. I just do what I do now for fun. And I think that might be part of it and the independence bit is basically just living off the steam, is starting from kids being kids' age, living intentionally, so understanding year of, and then having targets every year. Like the idea, do you ever meet your friends and you're like, what are your objectives for next year? And then what do you mean objectives?
Yeah.
And we just take it for granted.
I know it's become part of the vernacular now, isn't it? I know even with people that I know that are very high performing, I said to them once, like, what's your physical goal for next year? And they said, I haven't got time. I said, you've got time to fly to do conferences in America, to write books, and it's not time. It's just you've not made it a priority. And it must have hit home because now he's like sending photos of himself doing 12,000 steps a day, screenshots. He's done, since the start of the year, he's lost about 10 kilos or something. And so it's not just like, there's high performers that don't even live with intentionality as well. And I think that's a great one to pass on into your children, is like, make sure that you're not just, like I said earlier, coasting through life. Because I think, not that life was like terrible before, but since I've actually started, steering my ship in the last few years, everything's just like in full color now. And it's brilliant. In fact, actually, I hadn't even considered that as one thing to pass on, but that's definitely something to pass on.
Adam says it really well. He says he said two things that in the last few years that have stuck with me really well. One was, life is like a fine bottle of wine. It should be savoured and enjoyed. Sip it slowly, enjoy it. And now I'm actually where he's been for a lot of his life.
Yeah.
In that space, I can see what he means. I literally go to bed at the moment, and I just think, do you know what? In 10 minutes, I'm going to close my eyes. I'm going to wake up. It's going to be tomorrow, and I can do this again. And I love it. How many people on the world can actually say that in that position? Very few.
Yeah.
And the other thing he says is, I just want to see, like you said, see life in full colour. And he says, I want to taste every flavour.
Right.
And I just think that's such a great way to explain your life.
That is. And I was having a conversation with a friend. It was at another friend's wedding, and we hadn't seen each other since we left uni. So this is probably like 15 years since we met. And he had two little girls, and he was, this was only recently, and he was concerned about AI, and he was concerned about social media and all this stuff. And his solution was, honestly, I think he was being serious, was to take his family and go live on a farm cut off from the world. And I was like, that's great. But what happens when you're dead? And you haven't actually taught them how to survive in the real world. They're not going to stay on that farm forever. And that was my point with we do only have one job as a parent, which is to get them ready for the day that we're no longer here, whether that's they've moved away or we are gone. But that's the only thing you can do. And I think for me, the other one really to teach them is independence of thought as well. It's so easy to just flip open, Instagram or watch the news and be told that you should feel like this about this thing, and the number of people that just go with it. I think, along with intentionality, living intentionally is actually like having your own independence of thought and looking at things for what it is, not what you're hearing.
To challenge that though, are any of us independent of freedom of thought? Like, are any of us really, like, when you think about, there's no new ideas. They're just like flying to Mars. That's just an extrapolated version of flying to the moon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or AI. That's an extrapolated version of the digitization of calculus or calculated maths. Is like the way we think and the decisions we make. Are we actually independent of thought? Are we non-conformist?
Oh, so we get into existence here, and
but no, think about it. Like, if you said,
self-determination.
you should listen to Dan speak. He talks about low risk, low return. It's like basically he talks like Warren Buffett. Anyone who knows, they'd be like, well, he's just like a carbon copy of Warren Buffett.
Yeah.
So you think, like, is that actually intentional, or have I just chosen to follow in his footprint? And he followed in the footsteps of Benjamin Graham.
That's a great challenge, and I think it's freedom of thought is I suppose being, and I'm making this up on off the cuff now, is being able to take more than one different opinion, even if it's different to the one you already hold, and just kind of letting them sit in your mind, and then letting time and rationality work out which one is the right one. And I think that's the problem that we have, is like so many people are so entrenched in their position, they can't even entertain that somebody else might have a different opinion, and it's okay for them to have that. We get told that we should be enraged about something, and if you're not, you're part of the problem. But I suppose freedom of thought is that you weigh up what is in front of you, pros, cons, and everything else, and you make your own decision. Of course, that's going to be informed by something, and you're totally right, nothing's new, which is why, well, I suppose that's a whole other thing. Nothing's new, but it's how we interact with it that might be new or not. And if you take everything that's in front of you and actually give it time to and think it through to come out with your own conclusion, that I think is a skill that I would want my children to have.
Yeah, no, you've elaborated on it. I think that is exactly aligned with the. So actually, the Living Off the Steam book, I'm actually thinking about renaming and calling Escape from Modern Slavery. One, because people would understand it better, because Living Off the Steam is something we understand. The Escape from Modern Slavery, because it's like people are born. There's somebody called Carol who works on a cash machine that I used to, in an office where we used to have a building. And for 6 months there, I was working on a project, and every day I'd go in, "Hi Carol, how you doing?" She's on the self-service checkout. And I say, and she'd say, "Oh yeah, it's only 17 years till I retire." And she would just be counting down the days to retirement, a holiday, the weekend. And granted, there's a degree of, they say ignorance is bliss. There's a degree of, she doesn't know any other way. So her life and understanding of what life is this is just the way it is. But for me, as somebody who I think has broken out of that, out of choice, I look at that and think I would like to provide people the opportunity to understand that if you want to take responsibility for your destination, your outcome, you can do. And then you can take that to break away, that it's not necessarily a freedom of thought or independence of choice. It's more swimming against the tide, isn't it? It's not society says you need to be woke, you need to be Labour, you need to be Trump, whatever the hot topic of the day is.
Yeah.
That people understand that actually they can go in their own direction.
And it's perfectly okay.
Absolutely.
And it's perfectly okay that somebody else is that other way. And I think that's acceptance, empathy, that's probably something else as well. It's like other people have their own lives and their own version of colour with it. And it's okay that they can be different to you as well. And I think that's...
And it's choosing your own tribe, because if you don't choose your own tribe, the tribe is the one you're born into, which in most cases is society.
Yeah.
Our tribe is, whatever you want to call it, the board, property entrepreneur, entrepreneurship, business, property.
Yeah.
We choose that, and it just tends to be that you hang around with people that we talk the same things, we think in the same straight way.
You gravitate to that circle.
And we stay up at night wondering about the meaning of life, whereas other people have got to go to work. Nice. Okay, good. I would say let's change gears a little bit.
Okay.
M&A, mergers and acquisitions. Go.
Mergers and acquisitions. Okay. From what perspective? I was talking to Josh about this just yesterday.
Josh is upstairs.
Is he?
Yeah.
He was the technicals ins and outs, but I won't go down that route. I think M&A...
We can talk about technical. We'll talk about whatever you want. What's the things that spring to mind?
M&A as a... Let's talk about it just as a strategy, as a way to go, right? Because it's very much the hot topic these days. Like, I don't know if you can go on social media without being interrupted by an advert about how easy it is to buy a business. A few years ago, it was all about commercial to residential conversions. People popping up all the time.
Mate, you do know that's what's called the algorithm, yeah?
I know,
I know. But that's your choice. I don't get any of that. I don't go on social, but
within like the circles that I know that do property, suddenly everyone is now talking about M&A as well. In those circles, let's buy an insurance broker, let's buy this, and I think, when I've spoken to them, they're getting these same thing pop up. Maybe they're searching it as well. Maybe I've had an influence on them. Who knows? But M&A as a strategy is the kind of thing that is not life changing, but it changes the game completely. Like we were talking about moving through levels earlier. If you do that, you have to be ready to jump to a new level, and not just ready at that moment. You have to start laying the groundwork a lot earlier. So when I started on it earlier, last year, and you and I had a conversation about literally the levels of leadership, right? John Maxwell's book, The 5 Levels. And do you remember I said, I think I need to go back a level and actually make sure I've put that foundation in? I felt like I was skipping one. It's a great way actually to see where you are in that leadership, in those leadership levels. It's a great way to test yourself. It's a great way to grow the business. But like, it's not, you were completely right when you were challenging me on it last year. It's not easy. It's not straightforward, and people are always the hardest part of it. And until you can confidently say you're really good at managing people, motivating people, leading people, I would not be getting into it. And what do you think?
I think, my initial thought a second ago was, again, this self-awareness that you have of like not skipping gears. That's such a wise approach to take. I never would have taken that when I was younger. And a lot of the people that I teach never listen to that. Slow and steady always wins the race. Nobody else listens to it. But that's credit to you why you're doing these things and they're still working. So hats off for that. And also levels of leadership. When I learned that in 2014, it changed the game for me. I read it and understood why I was trying to be the one that was winning all the gold medals and trying to get other people to do it, which is basically level 3. Level 4 is investing in others. As soon as I understood that, the game, within 2 years, the game that plus a week with Roger Hamilton in Bali, that completely changed things. And then with M&A, my sentiment is always the same. It's, you want to learn how to build businesses. You do that. And then if you want to go on a rapid growth curve, it is a lot quicker to buy businesses than it is to build them. But you can't really buy them unless you know how to build them, because you have to understand how they work. And everybody thinks it's quick. Everyone thinks it's easy. Everyone thinks it's simple. And none of them have actually done a deal. It's like, or none of them are telling the truth. If they are people who've done the deals and tell you it's easy. Who's the big, there's a few big names in M&A. Who's the big one who did the nursery roll up? I think he's got had a bit of maybe a bit of fall from grace.
Was that Jeremy Harbour?
No, it's not. Jeremy Harper actually mentored me. I think he's really good. It doesn't matter who it is because we're on a podcast, but he basically interviewed me, and he of all the people that have approached me with M&A, he's like one of the ones that's right up there. I'd say like the big boys. So I thought this would be interesting because he's much more experienced than me. He just wanted to know how I did a roll up and exit, and so he did it on a podcast. And when he said to me, "What do you think the biggest issue is in M&A?" I said, 99% of M&A problems and successes are around the people. I said, "What do you think?" And he said, 100%. He said, "The only issue you'll have is people." Yeah. And that is my out and out thing, is unless you're into HR and people and teams and leadership and management, I wouldn't touch it with a barge pole. The rest of it's very clinical. It's binary. It's like risk analysis. It's DD. It's strategy.
Yeah. The deal doing itself is
sexy, exciting. It's fun.
It is, and it's probably 25% of the equation.
It's like having a baby, right? Everyone loves the beginning bit.
The beginning bit, yeah.
18 years until you maybe get any sense of life back. And it's the same with M&A, right?
You don't know how to manage people and like your wife, the baby. You got to everything that comes down to people really with life, doesn't it? But it is like 25% is the deal. That's you could learn that in a course how to do it. It's everything that comes afterwards. And you're right, unless you know how to build and run a business first, thinking that's a shortcut, M&A is a shortcut to success is nuts, absolutely crazy. Because
I would say it's a shortcut. I would say, but it's not a quick win. It's not like if you buy 100 units, you end up with 60. It's like that, 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Yeah, and I think it's and that's how it does feature in my plans for the future as a means to an end and a means to scale quickly. Because there's a lot of activity at the moment in the accounting sector. A lot of private equity-backed firms are in there very active at this point. And it's actually quite a good time if you can come in as an independent to be able to say, well, look, we're not backed by PE, but we're still doing this same thing. And we can bring you... the other thing, actually, talking about people, every seller I've spoken to, and I ask them, like, what's important to you? That's always the first question I ask. Nobody says the money that they get first. Every single thing is about how their team's going to be looked after. Did you find that?
On an exit? Or on acquisition?
When you're talking to sellers and you're the buyer, and you ask the buyer, like every seller I've spoken to, one of their top 2 concerns is how their team's going to be treated afterwards.
I think one of the things that came out of you and I doing the dance about whether you should or shouldn't do an M&A is the M&A you're doing and the businesses you're doing them on are very different to what I was doing. I was buying out startup entrepreneurs who've been in the business 5 to 10 years. Yeah. And they were running HMO portfolios in the main. That's very different to an accounting practice that's got a team of steel profiles.
Been there 15 years.
Been going 15, 20, 30 years. So I would say there was definitely big differences. And I also think it is a great game to play. I wouldn't now talk you out of it. I would just be able to better manage the expectations going into it, because as long as you get the numbers right, things like the payment terms, the transition, you get your what's it called, the amount of clients that leave in the first year, not arbitrage,
attrition.
Yeah, get your attrition rates right. When you get a model for it and you find it, as long as you can keep arm's length from it personally, it actually works really well. Yeah, I think the place where it works really well is when you can do it. So if I was to do it now, and I haven't got the energy for it, but I wish somebody would employ me as a non-exec to help them do it,
Yeah.
I would do a roll-up now with private schools. It is the best opportunity I've ever seen in M&A. I would go into it, but what I would do is I would fly, when I was going to do Mount St Mary's, and I was the tiniest detail away from not getting the deal done, I would have just flown consultants in. I never would have gone there. I never would have met the teams. I had a team of consultants lined up. And to me, it's literally a deal. It's a paper exercise.
Yeah.
But they're, those deals are tens of millions. You wouldn't be doing that with little letting agencies like I did before.
No, you're playing a different game now. And you're asset back there as well, isn't you? You've got the actual physical thing there, the physical building there as well.
Yeah. And I think when you're doing M&A as well, it's all about the funding model, because what you don't want to do, which is what I see a lot of people do, which is what I did to a degree, not hugely, but because I ended up doing a lot of it with bounce back loans and Sybils, which was like really, really effective way to liquidate, to create capital in the business, is when you are using your own money, really what you sign up to is like 3 to 7 years of working your arse off, paying down a balance sheet. And really that's great because you end up with a free business at the end if you can sell it.
Yeah.
But if you can't, it ends up really bad. And even worse, if the business is worth $1 million and you pay $1 million, and by the time you've had it for 2 years, it's worth 600 grand, and you're servicing £1 million worth of debt, people just have this tailwind that they can't service, and the whole thing implodes, and then everyone loses: the employees, the sellers, the buyers.
Yeah, I mean, cash management in anything is the most important, but M&A, it's a completely different game. Do you want to know the best thing and the worst thing from this last deal that we did?
Yeah, go.
Right. Best thing that came, and they're both people related. The best part of it was that after the deal, I started sending out a weekly journal entry, and I called it journal entry for a bit of accounting humour. But essentially, it's a newsletter. But
I've never got that until you just said that.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were all over the debits and credits. Josh had a great time when I was talking.
I bet he did. You two live in that space.
He was laughing his head off. So I've started sending this out. It's been a number of months now, and in it, I've been getting the team to send in wins every week as well, and kind of naming people. And the whole point of it was to spread the culture and unity, because we're in separate offices. It's easy to be like, well, they're the new guys, we're the other guys, and I've started calling them, you're not allowed to say them. It's the South End office, or it's the Dartford, or whatever. You got to, it's trying to spread that, and that is actually starting to take hold now. So like going through the values, the cultures, giving examples where people are living it, getting everyone to see that actually you might have only just met 7-8 months ago, but actually we work in the same way, and so spreading that common values and culture has actually probably been one of the biggest wins. They're even using the same language now, like,
and that's what that is what people think culture is, like 5 values on the wall. It's not. It's basically how everyone. My business partner calls it mixing your drinks.
Yeah.
Like, imagine 2 different cultures. He says, what happens when you mix your drinks? You get a headache. It's like, that's the reality, right? It's just, yeah.
You should have used that on me last year. I wouldn't have gone with it.
Should have done. So yeah, that I can see why that works.
Yeah. So that was that common language. That's the biggest thing. When you talk the same as somebody else, using the same acronyms and all that stuff, different thing. Blaze, temp, all that stuff now is all flying around both offices and everything when we're recruiting and everything like that.
Great.
The worst part was, again, people related, because, and this is a word of caution in here as well in the story, is how quickly we did the deal. So that deal we did in 7 weeks from meeting them to signing, which means there was very little interaction with the team, very little. And, you go in there and you're like, you say, don't worry, I'm a great guy, you can trust me. And obviously, I could get you in there and you'd back me up because you know me. But these guys don't. And not taking the time to actually get to know key people in the team during the DD phase, because we didn't have the time for it, actually has had an impact throughout, because like they don't know you from day one. They're all scared. You can say as much as you want about their jobs being safe and everything, but everybody has that fear in them. And that was probably the worst part of it, was actually that initial part. And that's kind of what steered me towards starting to do those journal entries, was I can't be there every day, but I can spend an hour a week acknowledging the team, calling them out on what they're doing really well, and spreading a common kind of operating system and belief system between both offices.
Yeah, good man. And for the people who enjoy that stuff, like yourself, that's where the magic is made in M&A. Unfortunately, that was not I bought businesses, never saw them. I never met the employees. I just didn't have the time, interest, or energy to do that. I just wanted to do the deals. And that that's probably one of the contributes that, created some of the challenges for me. You're up.
Awesome. Right. So you said earlier that you started your first business at 14. Was that the turning point of your life? And if it's not, what was?
Turning point. That's a really, really good question. Do you mean in like those sort of significant moments you look back on, or the turning point for like independence and business, or?
I'll let you define it. Or were there multiple for different things?
So I would say when you think about those things that happen in your life and you're like, and it has a seismic shift on your life. Well, I know some of them because I've been through therapy and hypnosis to understand them. So I always wanted to be, I've always, entrepreneurs in my blood. I was 3 years old and my great grandparents have now passed away's house for Christmas. And I can remember all the kids unwrapping their presents. I can literally remember it.
Yeah.
I can remember the room. I was 3 years old and they were all playing with the toys. I had one of the big boxes that the toys came in. I was in the box, cut a little window, and the adults were giving me money in one window and I was giving them quality streets out of the other. And to me, that was fun and enjoyment. Yeah. And I was after the money. I was doing whatever. That was like, that shows it's in my blood. And then when my work ethic got out of control in like from 2018 up till about 24, till the pandemic really, 23 probably, 22, 23, my work ethic was out of control. It was making me ill. I didn't want to be working as hard as I was because I'd been doing it it would have been 20 years then. And I was just like, why am I addicted to work? Why do I have to be at my desk at 5 a.m? Why do I have to work so hard? And I had some hypnotherapy. I did lots of things. One of the things was, hypnotherapy. And they get you to walk down the staircase back into your childhood. And basically, there was two things happened. One was, because my parents divorced when I was 7. I lived with my mum. My brother and I lived with my mum. They had great divorce, acrimonial, all good. Both parents really fantastic. But lived with my mum in a single parent household, small house, average area, and had the red phone bill on the notice board. And I just remember thinking, we're going to get kicked out, we're going to get evicted, we're going to go broke. And that to me meant money actually solved problems. And then at the same time, or within the same couple of years, my dad said for my school report, he'd give me £20 for the school report. And every year it was good, he would double it. So to me, working hard made money. And I needed money to pay for the phone bill. And then that manifested itself over whatever that is, 25, 30 years into this work ethic.
Yeah.
So those were real sizable things that got me to where I was. And then ironically, my dad actually died. Well, when I was 22, I came back from the bit. I was doing my degree and I was doing a placement and I was working on the buildings evenings and weekends or holidays and weekends. And my mum was like, why are you literally killing yourself for like money? And I said, because I want to give you as much as I can. And she was like, I don't want your money. And I was like, could have told me that like 15 years ago. And that was interesting. And that sort of stuck in my head. But then when my dad died and he was only 66, he'd only had a year of retirement. He'd worked his arse off. He had a great life. Don't get me wrong. He loved it. That then made me realise, actually, there is a life outside of work. And that was the last thing that sort of most recently changed direction for me.
What about you? Was what, 2022 you said then?
When my dad died.
Oh, that was more recent, wasn't it? You said, yeah.
Yeah, that was like be 3 years in. Yeah, that was about 2.5 years ago.
And that's then when you kind of changed more to the chairman vibe. And
I just decided I'm going to put MDs in the companies, or I'm going to sell them, or I'm going to put the keys through the letterbox and walk off.
Interesting, isn't it? Because you said you said earlier about we don't really have freedom of choice, but there's influences from somewhere. And then you were selling sweets to your family at 2 years old because of your entrepreneurial grandparents and everything like that. So
I'm the first entrepreneur in my family. I've never had, apart from my stepmom, who my dad later married, which was, I was well gone by then, well into entrepreneurship by then. Her brother was an entrepreneur, but up until then, I'm the first entrepreneur in our family.
So what was the influence then? What got you?
No, it wasn't. That's what I mean. It was in my blood. Yeah. I think it was just, people are naturally talented singers, footballers, runners. I was just...
You just did it. See,
I don't know
I grew up. So my parents, immigrants, child of immigrant. I actually think there is America becoming what it has of the spirit. I think there is something about like when you go somewhere and you've left comfort or maybe not, and you've gone somewhere else. You kind of just go with a certain spirit. And then for me, growing up there seeing my parents doing that. You know, I remember as a kid, like bedtime. What was bedtime? My dad would come back with they had a clothing business. He'd come back with a van full of stock from, you know, East London or whatever, wherever garments used to get made back then in the late 80s, early 90s. And we'd be there at the shop, unpacking stuff, putting it on hangers, hanging on the rails like 10, 11 at night. You know, that is what I grew up around. So that's probably where I get my work ethic from. You know, I'd see my parents do that and I'd be physically involved in doing it as well. But otherwise, I said earlier, like about coasting though, and I feels like I did spend a lot of my, you know, younger adult life just kind of going through the motions and just letting things happen as opposed to steering the ship myself. But for me, the turning point was actually when my third child was born. And it was at the time when, I think I might have shared this with you before separately, when COVID was happening, right? So the boy was born 2 weeks before lockdown. And so, you know, I was literally the last dad on the maternity ward. They stopped them coming in. Jasmine, it wasn't a great birth, so it was literally just me and the boy for about 6-7 days in the ward. And everyone's worried about COVID and everything else. And I had this kind of moment where I thought, you know, if I keeled over now with COVID, I hadn't done I can put my hand on my heart and say I was proud of what I had done to provide for my family at that point. And this is like 2020, right? So not all that long ago. So for me, it was actually a very conscious turning point as opposed to an unconscious turning point. It's like, I need to do something with this. And to be personally, I feel like I won COVID because in COVID, I went on a property course, on a virtual one. I then joined the year-long mastermind. I then went to a charity event it ran. I then won an auction, which put me on the blueprint. And then from the blueprint, I signed up. And just the changes that have happened year after year since that, like I said, full colour now.
Yeah, I mean, that's great to hear. And do you think any of that do you believe in anything like the universe, or like, do you think you're just in the right place at the right time? Or do you think that was, like, they say you can only connect the dots looking back?
Yeah.
Was that always your destiny, or like?
I think, I don't like to think that it's destiny and it's preordained. I think you have decision points that you reach in your life, and you make one decision, you go that way, you make the other decision, you go the other. You know, you just get these games like books, and you could make a decision whether you turn to page whatever, and the story continues. You obviously didn't read that kind of book when you were a kid. I think you have choices to make at certain points. And the thing that changed for me then was I decided it was my responsibility, no more coasting. And until you take responsibility, you don't start seeing choices. Things are just happening. And I think it starts with taking responsibility first, and then you make choices, and then your choices lead you to take actions, and then doing those actions again and again gives you the discipline to keep doing them, and then through the discipline, you get the results.
Slightly off tangent to finish this round, because I'm interested to know, pulling back on a few things, having that experience you shared about when you were younger, talking about kids and what we want them to have, me growing up on my trajectory. Yeah. What's your view? I remember being in the barbers a few years ago, getting my hair cut, watching the Children's Olympics, gold medalists going in. These kids must be 8, 9, maybe, I don't know, 10, 11. They're kids, but you can see their life, they're locked in, they're dialed in, they're ready to go. And you can only assume that's been supported, if not directed, by their parents. What's your view on directing or supporting or encouraging kids on a life of high performance, perhaps before they understand what it entails? Would you look at that gymnast that's completely dialed in, clearly stressed at 10, 11 years old? Do you look at that and be like, wow, what an incredible experience to have as a kid? Or do you look at them and think, I bet there's a parent somewhere that's put some pressure on there?
Yeah, I don't know. You just sprung. Have you got a view first? I'll formulate my view while you give yours, because you must have one if you've seen it already.
I think my initial thought was I felt sorry for him, but I think at the time I was in a bad place myself. I felt like I had parental expectations, man of the house responsibilities, and now I look back on all those thoughts, and I'm so grateful that I had those challenging years, because now I took my granddad yesterday to the hospital to have his monthly checkup. And he's 91, and he's still sharp as a tack, good sense of humour, reasonably fit.
Wow, yeah, man.
And I just think, do you know what? If I live to be the same age as him, I've got another 50 years playing this game. And I think, wow, for having 20 years of working my arse off
Yeah.
and 10 years of probably being quite unhappy, am I grateful for it? I would say absolutely. Like, now I've got 50 years to have fun.
Yeah, I think it was what we said earlier. Like the sum of the experiences you've had this so far, right? If we didn't go through those, we wouldn't have this outlook now. And with that kid, I guess my initial thought was, if it's the parents doing it because they feel like they didn't achieve what they wanted to or whatever in their life, then maybe that's not the right thing. Kind of going back to one of the earlier questions about values, it's like standards, right? If you're teaching the kid about effort and nothing comes, no meaningful rewards come without having to put in some effort, then sure, all for it. But if you're getting your kid to do something just so you can look back and go, yeah, my kid did this, I got them to do this, even not even my kid did this, I got them to do it, and you're trying to take the some of the credit for it, then you're in the wrong place.
Interesting. Right, last but not least, is it me? It is me.
Yes, it is.
The UK.
The UK. Gotta love it, right?
Yeah, I'm really becoming very conscious, obviously in private more than publicly. I'm very conscious of me banging this narrative of the UK is a mess, it's on its way down, it's a disaster, blah, blah, blah. But then equally, I look at it pragmatically and think there is a fair reason to be painting that picture that people are. And I do think there's challenges. I don't think it's potentially as bad as it could be. I do think it's salvageable, but what's your view? If somebody says, a lot of our friends are leaving the country, I'm off to Dubai in a couple of weeks for Sav, and like I'm even thinking, if she likes it over there and we like it, we'll probably go back out again. And like, there is definitely a pull of going to Dubai, Portugal, Cyprus, Ireland, if you like the weather, wherever. There's lots of other
lots
benefits.
of rainier. Yeah.
What's your thoughts on the UK?
I think that a lot of it depends on context, like where you sit in the UK, in terms of like what you have and your means, I suppose, let's say, because some people are going to get hit hard. I think there's no argument that it's sliding, right? And how hard that hits people is going to be different depending on where your starting point is, obviously. And so for people that, you know, in the groups that we're in, the impact is going to be, it's not going to have as large a detrimental effect, let's say.
If anything, if you get it right, it can be net positive.
It can be beneficial, right? Whether you're in property or even M&A, right? Then there'll be opportunities in M&A with this. I think what I'm putting the economics to one side, and I know you can't because, you know, if you have countries are a lot like people and families, that if money is sorted, everything else can be dealt with quite easily. But if you have money issues, that will cause you can't even focus on anything else at that point, right? And so I get, like, there's all the woke lefties say that you know it's all about the economy, it's all about the economy. But there's a reason for that, because if that's sorted, you don't have to worry about healthcare. You don't have to worry about even social care because the money part is taken care of. But if we do put the money part to one side, like just general society, I think there's reasons to be positive as well in the UK from just the way that society is. I was at something yesterday where they were talking about there being a lot of entrepreneurialism in the UK, but because it's not supported, it's not nurtured, forget from a governmental level, there's just younger people that are that way inclined don't see how they can step up and do it. Maybe that's where it comes to people like me and you to actually, you talked about education earlier, maybe that's your $1 billion idea. It comes to people like us to say, no, look, you can make it in the UK, even with a Labour government as well.
What do you think from what you see from the businesses you see behind the scenes of hundreds or thousands of businesses that are your clients from an accounting point of view? Do you see them struggling? Do you see them thriving? Is every other case a success story, or are they all just about scraping by? Like, what's the?
We've got a mix of them, actually, to be honest. There are some that are doing better than ever, and they're in businesses like construction and stuff like that as well. You know, actually one was in just yesterday. He's buying property in Abu Dhabi, not considering leaving just yet, but he is buying property out there anyway. He's got a construction business, high-end kind of refurbs in Mayfair, Kensington, that kind of thing. So there's still people that are doing okay out there. And even since COVID, we have only lost one client because they went out of business in terms of like not operating while other people just retired or whatever, but actually going out of business, and it was a travel agent. That's it. That's the only one client that has gone out of business since COVID. And you've said before, there's some base level of resilience within the economy that is still keeping things going and keeping people's head above water at this point. So from my vantage point of seeing these businesses, there is a mix. Some are just, just kind of chugging along, but there are a number of them out there that are playing it right and are thriving at the moment.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I do wonder what the future of it's going to be, because you have got to separate the sort of sentiment and the stats, because you look at the stats and they're okay. You look at the economy is doing okay, but it's like you look at the problems, they're getting bigger, not smaller. And that's not a new thing. If you track it all the way back to like 07, 08, really a lot of this stuff is systemic in productivity, culture, the way that people's just attitudes have changed, how the bottom end of the market, the social space, whether that's benefits or, that the sort of bottom end of the market has just ballooned. The amount of people out of work post-COVID with,
It's hundreds of thousands more, isn't it?
You just look at it and you just think, and like those stats are shared at the super event, over 50% of the country are net beneficiaries, which basically means the 48% who are paying the tax are not drawing more, are paying, over half the country are basically living off the state. And you just think, and I can see it, you just go around the country and you just look at the general vibe, and you can see that's now built into the culture of people they're like resting on their laurels. They have like a sense of entitlement.
Do you think it might actually longer term, kind of that analogy of a country and a person, right? Sometimes when you're comfortable, you convince yourself you're okay to carry on going, and then sometimes things have to get so bad that you take some action to turn it around. Do you think the UK first needs to get so bad that people way more powerful than us decide, no, actually this has to change?
Well, Elon Musk in a recent interview said, someone said, what's your opinion of the government? He said, having spent a fair bit of time in it, he said, my opinion of the government is it's so broken it can't be fixed.
Yeah.
And that's Elon Musk, who's like, whatever you want to say to him, he is a crazy intelligent guy, pragmatic, savvy, stoic. Like he for him to say that, I could see that. And then I was chatting to somebody the other day who's just come back from America they've been in America for 12 years, come back for personal reasons. And I said, have you noticed any difference coming back? And they said, it's like day and night. They said, people's expectations. He says, people's just general mood. Everyone seems like quite flat and depressed. Service levels have dropped. Knife crime wasn't even a thing when he left. And he says, obviously he's probably chose a bad week to come back, but it's like, in his eyes, that's become bigger. And obviously a lot of that sentiment rather than maybe the stats, because we've got headlines news, we've got social media now, we've got all this sort of stuff. So it's hard to see. But I was saying my concern for the UK is it gets to the point of no return and it becomes this little island. Because at the minute, it used to be called the Great British Empire. It used to be an empire. We used to own pretty much everything. And now you've got to acknowledge we are just a little island. Granted, global power in some capacities, but do we just become this little island that just slowly becomes diluted until it's infiltrated with whatever, and it just becomes another...
And I can see where you come from. The logic of making yourself even smaller by stepping out of Europe made no sense. What was it, 9 years ago when that happened? I suppose we're not here to talk about Brexit now, but in the same way though, I think if you looked at the UAE, it's a tiny little state. I know it has oil money, but the UK has assets, it has skills, it has things to offer. It's just not being driven in the right way. There is clarity of what they wanted to do when they started out 20 years ago with Dubai and now Abu Dhabi just behind as well. So being a small place makes no difference because, you said the Great British Empire, right? It was that tiny little island to start with. And so, what do they say? Like, great oaks grow from tiny acorns or whatever, but it's just got to have the intention to do it.
That like the Chinese 100-year plan, right? That was clearly effective, getting people out of the rice fields and into the economy. And what the sentiment I was trying to get across a minute ago with this chap who's come back from 12 years, he was saying, but eventually we'll get the right leadership and it will sort itself out. And you'd like to assume that optimism is right, but then if you look at it logically, and again, it's really hard for me to not keep banging this drum, because I'm still here, and it's working really well for me. But I feel sorry for a lot of people, friends and family, who are going to feel the pinch. So what's going to happen? We've got 3 years left to Labour. Who's coming in after that? Most likely Reform. Are they going to? Are they going to bring in this like real strong leadership and clear direction, and we're going to become the AI superpower of the world, or is it going to be another 5 year of politics, disappointment, kicking the can? And then what happens after that? It's like,
so is the real problem short-termism? Because like that, because whoever goes into government can't say, right, this is what we're doing for the next 50 years.
If I bought that school that I was going to buy, I would have struggled to turn it around in less than minimum. It would take me 3 years. The reality is, it would have taken me 5 years to turn that business around. And all the government have is 5 years to turn a country round. That's in a lot more dire straits, a lot more complicated, needs a lot more highly skilled people.
Yeah.
But I'm still here. I'm still making money, and I'm assuming you're not going anywhere.
I'm not going anywhere. So I think I guess do we blame Amazon Prime because they got us used to getting things so quick that we want everything turned around real quick now?
The ironic thing about the UK is everyone has the highest expectations. They want benefits. They want sick days. They want Amazon Prime. They want same day delivery they want the coffees on a drone. But they've also got such low expectations. Service levels, they're happy being rubbish. Yeah. They're happy running businesses with next to no profit. 90-something odd % of businesses are not even paying the owner a six-figure salary, let alone a profit. And you just think...
Yeah, I know, yeah. There was champagne service on lemonade prices. That's what they want.
Well, maybe that's what the UK is. To close on, my closing sentiment is I love the UK. I'm here. I love the country. I love the seasons. I love... everything about it. I just want to stay, and I find it's getting harder and harder, but let's hope that I'm being extreme and everything's going to be absolutely fine, but we'll see.
Fingers crossed.
Nicely done, Tej.
Thank you, Dan.